Hi, welcome to the Dream Girl Trucking Channel. I'm your hostess, Antoinette, and the Dream Girl Trucking Channel is for anybody who has a dream or who's working on a dream or who's living their dream. And usually I talk about trucking things, but today I'm going to spill the tea on my two gay roommates. I got a story to tell you guys, okay? So I had these two gay roommates, and they were not gay for each other because I don't think I could have handled that, you know? Like, even if it was hetero, I don't want to be in the house when somebody's fighting or making out. I don't want to be there. So, okay, so these guys are just friends. And what happened was I knew this one guy. I'm going to call them Frank and Edward. That's not their real names. So I knew this Edward from where I worked. We worked together before I became a truck driver. So I started driving, and I was gone all the time, and I was renting this mobile home. I had moved into this mobile home, and the air conditioner kept freezing up, and the refrigerator, the freezer had something where it would like defrost or something and run water all over the floor. So I didn't want to leave, my place like that. And Edward, his house had burned down, and he was just crashing on people's couches. He lost everything he owned. It was real sad. So I said, hey, you can come rent a room from me for real cheap. And he said, okay. So he comes, moves in, he likes it, and he's not there for very long. And he says, I have this friend, and his income doesn't go up, but his rent keeps going up. And so you have an extra room, and I was wondering if maybe he could come over and look at it. And if y'all like each other, think that he would fit in, maybe he could move in. So I said, okay, we'll do this for a trial basis, for a month. Well, I do not suggest you ever do that, because then if you have to kick somebody out because maybe it's not working, maybe you don't like them, whatever, unless they're really, really bad, and you tell them it's not working out, then they're homeless, right? So anyway, he wasn't that bad. He wasn't that good, but he wasn't that bad. So, but they were both very dramatic. So I didn't know that, that they were gay. I don't know if I knew about Frank being gay. So I did not know about Edward being gay. So Edward had all of his friends were gay. And he had this gay friend who came over. And this guy was like this real talkative guy. He was like, all the time. He was on all the time. And so we went out to eat at Babe's in Sanger. And so Edward was wearing this tie-dye rainbow t-shirt with blue jean shorts and rainbow Crocs, okay? And we're talking, and the friend says, did you hear what happened to Edward? He was in church, and the pastor preached a whole sermon on how gay people are not going to heaven. And Edward said, yeah, and I was sitting right there. And I'm like, Edward is gay? And his friend goes, well, look at him. I looked over there at him, and I realized, oh my gosh, yeah, he is. I'm like, you are gay. And he's like, yeah, I'm gay. He said, I told you that. I'm like, well, I guess it didn't matter to me. I guess it went in one ear and out the other, right? So so that's how I found that out, right? So my gay roommates, they're both real dramatic, and they're just Oscar and Felix. One's a Republican, one's a Democrat, right? So I'm all the time driving down the road, and one of them is calling me with some drama that's going on, okay? So one day, Frank calls me up, and he says, Antoinette. And I said, what is it, Frank? And he said, Edward, he voted Democrat. I said, what? I said, okay. And he said, no, you don't get it. He came home from work, and he was talking about how much groceries are costing these days. And he said, I might just have to do something that I've never done before. I might have to vote Republican. And then he left, and he went to early voting, and he came home, and I said, well, and he didn't say anything. He just went to his room, and you know what that means? I said, what? He said, he voted Democrat. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Well, he has a right to vote how he wants to vote. And, he's like, well, I know it, but I just can't stand it because he's got to know. He's got to understand. Blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay, chill out. Like, Frank, remember when you first moved in here? Because we live out in the country, and he would work in the Metroplex, and he had a car that was great on gas, but of course that did not matter. It was very dramatic. He had to do all this driving to get to work. I said, Frank, remember when you first moved in here? And I said, you should find a place close by to work so you don't have to drive so far to work. But you never did do it, did you? Well, he said, I said, so see, you don't always listen to what other people tell you to do. So it's no wonder that Frank doesn't listen either. Well, he couldn't stand that. Okay, so he went into his room and he typed up this big, long lecture about how Frank should, or how Edward should vote Democrat, or I'm sorry, so how he should vote Republican, right? And he left it in his room when he wasn't home. So I'm driving along and I get this call. Antoinette, it's Edward. What is it, Edward? What happened? Well, I came home and you know what's in my room? This long letter from Frank. Listen to this. Blah, 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 blah. Lecture, 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 lecture. You know, you're in the wrong. I'm in the right. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, you know, Edward, you should just throw that away because it's really not that important. Don't even worry about it. But apparently he did not. He did not. He just kept it because one of his friends came over and he whipped it out. He went in his room. He came back out. Look what he did. Look what he did. So, yeah. Frank would like go into Edward's room when Edward wasn't at home and he would call me up. Antoinette, what is it, Frank? I just went into Edward's room and he had everything on in there. He had his lamp on. He had his TV on. His ceiling fan is on. Even his window unit is on. Because, you know, we have window units in every room. We have central heat and air, but, you know, those mobile homes are not the older ones and it's a rental one. And, you know, they're just not that great. So we have that. I'm like, it's okay, Frank. You know, he pays his bills. He chips in. You know, he's okay. Well, it's just not right. He needs to learn to turn things off. I'm like, you know, he's a grown man, okay? He's a grown man. So I'd come home, right? And all my stuff would be packed up in my room. I'd be like, guys, I live here. Well, the thing was with Frank was that, you know, he threw everything away. He wanted everything thrown away. And Edward was a hoarder. So I would come home and, like, I'd go to put something in the closet. We got a closet in our living room, you know. And it'd be all full of Amazon boxes, empty cardboard boxes. I mean, filled up. You couldn't get anything in there because there'd be so many boxes. And I'm like, Edward, why are all these boxes in here? We need to get rid of these. And he'd say, well, Frank likes to return things because Frank was real picky and he was always ordering something and picky, right? And so he ordered the CD and it wasn't perfect. And it said on the description that it was like new. And he's like, does this look like it's like new to you? And I thought, yeah, there's really nothing wrong with it. I'm going to send it back. Okay. So I'm like, I don't care if he sends everything back or not. We cannot keep all these boxes in the closet, right? So, Frank, he would get up in the middle of the night and he would rearrange the cabinets, you know, because he was the Oscar, you know, the one who's neat and everything. And so Frank would call me up. I mean, Edward would call me up. I'll be on the road and he'd say, Antoinette, I can't find anything. Every time I put something down, it's moved. I come home, it's in a different place. I'm like, oh, well, you know, he said, Frank gets up in the middle of the night, rearranges all the cabinets. He's done it several times. Let me tell you, he was bad at it too, because I'd come home and there'd be like crackers over here and crackers over there. Well, a normal person puts all the crackers in one spot. But, you know, Frank, he was such a neat freak. Finally, you know, I got tired of it. And I came home and I took everything out of the cabinets and I put all the crackers in one cabinet and all of the this and all of that. And then I labeled everything and then I left a note on the refrigerator that said, nothing should be moved. Put it where it's supposed to be. Okay, so I'm going through all the cabinets, right? And and Frank is in there with me. And so I'm opening up all the cabinets, looking at everything. And I open up this one and there's like 2 or 3 little boxes of food in there of nothing. I'm like, what's this? Because Frank's like, calls me up. Antoinette, you have got to tell Edward to stop bringing things home. He keeps bringing stuff home. We can't fit any of it in the cabinets. You know, and here is Edward. Antoinette, I can't find anything because he keeps rearranging the cabinets. Right? So, so anyway, I'm like, what's this? Because there's nothing in that one cabinet. He goes, well, that's my cabinet. I'm thinking, I said, I didn't rent you a cabinet. I rented you a room. But I went ahead and left him his cabinet anyway so he would be happy. So anyway, he would he was always creeping around and taking stuff. And I don't know why, you know. And so one day, one of Edward's cats disappeared. He had 2 cats, and one of them was one of those neurotic cats. He got it when it was a kitten, and it would hide all the time, and it disappeared for like 3 days. I even came home. We looked everywhere for it. We looked under the beds, under all the dressers and everything. Anywhere a cat would hide, we couldn't find it anywhere. Of course, we did not look in Frank's room because cats are not allowed in Frank's room ever, no matter what, and Frank kept his door closed so the cats could not go in there because Edward had 2 cats. And one of them was really cool and really friendly, and the other one was a real weirdo. So the weirdo is the one that disappeared. And then after like 3 days, she showed up, and we both swear that she was in there in Frank's closet like everything else, because Edward would be looking for something, and he had these little, these really cute little measuring spoons, and they were metallic and silver, and they were real cute. And he called me up, Antoinette, I can't find those little measuring spoons I bought anywhere. I've been looking for them all day, and they're just not here. I just got them. And he said, I know they're in Frank's room. And I said, well, why don't you have Frank help you look for it, and y'all just look until it turns up, because that's what always happened. Like, he would call me up, I can't find it, and he would tell me, and Frank helped me look for it, and we looked, and finally we just gave up. I went to my room, and then here comes Frank into my room with what we were looking for, and he said, I just found these and so, and he'd say, we just looked there. I know it wasn't there. I know he had it in his room. Right? So I said, okay, well, just have him look for it, and until you find it, right? So he never did find those until the very end, when Frank was going to move out, and he came out with this Ziploc baggie, this clear Ziploc gallon freezer baggie, and it had a whole bunch of stuff in it. And Frank come out of his room, and he told Edward, he said, is this stuff, he said, this stuff was in my closet. I don't know how it got there. Is any of it yours? And Edward's like, well, some of it's mine and some of it's Antoinette's. And I'm like, what, Edward, what was in it? And he said, well, you know those little plastic things that you stick in the end of your corn on the cob? And I was like, dang, I haven't eaten corn on the cob in a long time. I didn't even know I was missing those. And he said, well, yeah, those were in there. So I came home shortly after that, and I wanted to see what was in there. And I had been sick right before I started this job, and Frank moved out like, I don't know, 2 weeks later. So, but I had gotten chloroseptic. My chloroseptic was in there. I don't know why he even took it. I'm thinking, oh man, when he moves out and lives with somebody else, he's going to get beat up, right? Because, like, we're his friends, so we don't beat him up. So he want to throw everything away. So we're in the kitchen, right? We're in there in the kitchen talking, and in the middle of the conversation, he opens up the cabinet, and he pulls out this random glass, right? And my glasses, my drinking glasses, they don't match. Most of them are just mix and match stuff. And he pulls out this random drinking glass, and he says, do you want this? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, oh, I was going to throw it away. Why? So they're all the time very, very, calling me up, just being crazy, and making my life very exciting in that manner. There's just never a dull moment when they were around. So I don't talk to Frank anymore. I do still talk to Edward. He got his own place, and he lives local. And he's still just a great guy, but he's still a Democrat. But, we all got along great, and I really miss them for all of their craziness. It was pretty fun having them there. It was nice to have somebody to go home to that I didn't have to answer to. And so they're gone, and now my cousins all live with me. I got three generations of cousins living with me, and that's, you hardly see anybody who hangs out with their second cousin. I mean, because by that time people are gone. My second cousins are teenagers, right? Young, like they just barely made it to their teen years, right? So I go places with them. People are like, oh, are these your grandkids? I'm like, no, these are my cousins. They're like, your cousins? Yeah, so my cousin, who is basically my age, and then her son, who is my kids' age, and then his kids, and they all are staying with me. So my house is not empty when I'm not at home. So it's all good. And I hope that I have entertained y'all, and y'all have enjoyed your time with me. And hit like and subscribe, because that's what everybody else says who calls himself a content creator. That's the big craze now. Don't work, be a content creator. Well, I don't think that's ever going to happen to me, but it's fun doing videos. So anyway, you guys, have a great weekend or weekday, whenever it is that y'all are watching this. And whatever y'all want to say in the comments, I answer everybody. So I read everything, and I look forward to hearing from y'all. And thanks for watching. Bye.